Good morning, Lighthouse. Thanks for tuning in to our morning devotions. This morning we're going to talk about how to face our giants. So let's look at the story of David and Goliath that we all know well, told in 1 Samuel 17. David, a shepherd boy at the time, was on a mission sent by his father Jesse to bring cheese and bread to his brothers on the battle line. But when David arrives, he picks a fight with Goliath. And David runs quickly toward the battle line to meet Goliath with a sling in one hand, and in the other hand, he has the shepherd's staff. So Goliath sees David ready for battle with a shepherd's staff in his hand, and he despises David and says to him, "Am I a dog that you come at me with a stick?" So David had a choice. He could have picked up a sword or a shepherd's staff. And for David, it was a no-brainer. He picked up his shepherd's staff. Now, why? How foolish is that? When he goes to battle not with a sword or an axe, but with a shepherd's staff. And even my wife's kitchen frying pan would be a more lethal weapon. What was he thinking? So let's come back to the story in a moment. But first, let's think about the story of Moses, the burning bush, where he has an encounter with God. And you remember in Exodus 3 verse 10, God says, "I'm sending you to Pharaoh that you may bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt." And Moses goes to Egypt not overly enthusiastic, and he has to face his giants. And as he walks into Pharaoh's palace, knee shaking, teeth chattering, surrounded by hundreds of chariots, thousands of Pharaoh's finest guards armed with swords, spears, daggers. And as Moses walks through a tunnel of these fiercest fighting men, outnumbered maybe 10,000 to 1, he's armed with only a shepherd's staff. That's the sum total of his weaponry, a shepherd's staff. But we know the story because it's a shepherd's staff that unleashed something of God. The 10 plagues, before each plague, God said to Moses, "Stretch out your staff." See, the shepherd's staff in Moses' hand symbolized the protection and love of God, the authority of God, the sovereignty of God, the power of God. And above all else, it symbolized to Moses something of the presence of God, that God was always with him. So let's go back to our question of David. Why a shepherd's staff? Psalm 23 verse 1, David declared the truth that the Lord is my shepherd. You see, to David, a shepherd's staff spoke of God's unrelenting love for him. And just as a shepherd would lean and rest on his staff when there was muddy water and the ground was unstable, David knew he could always lean on God. See, the shepherd's staff spoke to him of a divine exchange, of his weakness for God's strength. And when the shepherd was near, there was no need for the sheep to be afraid or concerned. And the shepherd's staff always reminded him that his heavenly shepherd watched over him, protecting him, comforting him, and there was no need to fear any evil. You see, the shepherd's staff to David was a constant reminder to him of the past, of God's track record, of what God had done for him. When a bear or lion would confront David, you knew there was no way David could win. But David saw things differently. So when he looked at the lion or the bear charging him, he knew there was no way God could not win. His focus was always more on God than on the giants. In 1 Samuel 17, when you read the story of David and Goliath, David mentions Goliath twice. In contrast, he mentions God 10 times. That's a 10-to-2 ratio. See, David talks about the armies of the living God, the Lord who delivers me. I come in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel. And there's 6 other times he mentions God. You see, David didn't bury his head in the sand and deny the presence of the giant. But he didn't focus on the biceps and the triceps and the pectorals and all the other bulging muscles from Goliath. He chose instead to focus on God. 10 times he mentions God and only 2 references to Goliath. See, David's shepherd staff was him a constant reminder of his heavenly shepherd, Jehovah Nissi, his banner, his covering, the one in whom he could fully trust for the outcome of the battle. And with his shepherd, heavenly shepherd with him, there was nothing to be afraid of, nothing to be anxious of. See, that's how David faced his giants, holding his shepherd's staff in his hand. How do you and I face our giants? You know, some giants we face are smaller than Goliath. I mean, the coronavirus is very tiny. In fact, it's invisible. And the shepherd's staff in the Old Testament always points to Jesus, our good shepherd. You see, no longer do we have to walk around with a shepherd's staff in our hand as a reminder of our heavenly shepherd. So the picture's different. Instead of us holding the shepherd's staff firmly in our hand, Jesus holds us firmly in his grip. Hebrews 1 verse 2, Jesus sustains all things by his powerful word. Jesus holds us together, it says. And even in crazy times like this, Colossians 1:17, Jesus holds us together. See, Christ in us, the hope of glory. So whenever we face our giants, we can, like David, run quickly to meet the giant, knowing that our heavenly shepherd is with us and he holds us together firmly in his grip. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. Have a blessed day.